We're live with you, Stadium. We are here breaking down the NFL's top 10 players. I have it scrolling through on the bottom if you want to see it. I'm Ryan, Splash, whatever the heck you want to call me. We're joined with Jack and new face, Zach. How's it going, guys?
Things are going well. How are you?
I'm chilling. My hair is a hot mess, so that's exciting. I'm sure Frank, as soon as Frankie sees this, he's going to be like, Splash, cut your hair. But that's okay. His opinions are at least better than the NFL top 10. So
I can agree.
I brought out the nerd glasses for today, so Frankie can just go off for that.
Okay, love it. I love it. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm kind of still trying to process the rest of this list still because I tend to kind of dig through it and find quite a few problems with it. I was actually pretty upset last week because I thought Jalen Ramsey should be in the top 10. But that's a story for another time, I feel like.
That's fair. So before we dive into the top 10, Zach, I know Jack just mentioned he thought Ramsey should be in the top 10. Who outside of the top 10 did you think should be in the top 10? Or did you think they got it right for once?
I think the top 10 is right to an extent. Yes, I think there's an argument for Ramsey, but I'm not going to go against the guys that they put in the top 10 as much as I'm going to go against the order they put them in.
Sure.
Okay, that's fair. And I think that's one thing I like to point out when I do my top 100 is that when I don't have a player in it or I have a player lower than you, it's not because that player sucks. It's just such a deep group of talent in the NFL. It's like when I say I think Travis Kelsey is the number 2 tight end in the world, it's not because he's bad. It's not because he's not a Hall of Fame Mount Rushmore guy. It's because George Kittle is ridiculous. So I think we have the same conversation every year that we're not gauging bad players. We're gauging the best of the best, and we're having to split such fine hairs between them. So jumping in at 10, we have the revelation, Buffalo's Josh Allen. Whew, what a season. Do you guys like him at 10? Should he have been a little bit higher? Should he have been a bit lower? What are we thinking?
I actually think I move him up a little bit. Now, the reason I say that, it had been a long time coming for Josh Allen. It was his make or break here. Where is this Bills team if he doesn't do what he does? Their defense was a little bit about league average. Yes, Stephon Diggs was great. Their running game was okay. Their offensive line is pretty good. But Josh Allen is the reason the Bills were where they were. He's the reason that should he keep up his pace, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender in years to come. I think he was actually too low at 10. I think he should be up a little bit higher.
Okay, fair. Jack, what say you?
I kind of like him at 10, honestly, because I feel like in this past season in 2020, I feel like the guys right ahead of him, like TJ Watt at 9, DeAndre Hopkins at 8, I feel like those guys had somewhat more of an impact. I mean, to be fair, the Cardinals didn't make the playoffs. They just missed it. But DeAndre Hopkins was still a big reason why they were in the race. I don't know. I just kind of like him at 10. I feel like that's a fair placement for his breakout year. Like he was supposed to break out and be a top 10 player this year. He absolutely did that. If he keeps his pace going and keeps that consistency throughout the years to come, I think he'll have earned higher spots on this list for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you have this is the third straight year now that you have this kind of sophomore jump. I'm going to count Mahomes his first season as a sophomore jump because technically it is. So Mahomes jumps, Lamar jumps in 2019, 2020. Now Allen jumps. Mahomes jumped to 4, right? Lamar jumped to number 1. Allen jumps to 10. So you love to see the spectacular quarterback play in recent years. I tend to think Allen is a little too high, but that's more of I think the list tends to be more quarterback biased, more skill position biased. There was only 2 defensive players in the top 10. I disagree with that. Maybe last year I would have agreed with it more with having, I think, only Donald in my top 10. But I don't know. I think Allen, at 10 is fine for me, but I think it's based because he plays quarterback, and you see, the quarterbacks are always going to make the list. This is why I say Baker Mayfield's smack in the middle of the list, or Lamar's at 24, or Dak's. I think Dak made the list, and Herbert made the list. You have a ton of random quarterbacks that are like sprinkled in throughout, and you're just thinking they're good, but are they like elite, which the top 100 should be the elite of the elite. And I don't know if QB 10 is elite. So.
Well, you brought up the whole sophomore jump thing. Who do you think out of this year's upcoming sophomore class is going to be that guy to make the jump? I mean, the easy answer is Herbert, but
to me the easy answer I think is Joe Burrow. And so hear me out. So I think with what Herbert did last season, it's spectacular. And I've gotten hate for saying he's going to decline, and I have a very specific reason why he declines. But it's a statistical regression, at least in a rate base, because he does have an extra game. I think there's going to be a little bit of a step back in what Herbert does, because in 2020 he did so much of the volatile things well. This is what, say, 2018 Mahomes did spectacularly well, and we know Mahomes is a once-in-a-generation quarterback talent, so he can repeat it. He can carry an offense on 3rd and 9s and 3rd and 10s. 2017 Carson Wentz, he did the same sort of things, and then he fell off, and he didn't have that same 3rd and 8, always converting, back against the wall, under pressure. He's awesome. Herbert was the number 1 graded quarterback under pressure. That's awesome. And the Chargers said, that's not a flash, or that's probably a flash in the pants. We're going to invest in Slater at left tackle, invest in Corey Linsley, invest in Matt Filer. And those are all great. But I think that play under pressure, that deep ball, I think is going to take a slight downturn. And I think this is where Joe Burrow says, hey, I can swing the other direction. He was historically awful last year with the deep ball. It was like, I don't know, PFF grade in the 30s or 40s. It was bad. It was bad. And I get it. But if that swings even slightly in the right direction, I think you're looking at a guy that could be in play as a top 10 quarterback and maybe even higher. And there is an argument to me that he ends the season 2021 as the best quarterback in the AFC North.
Whoa.
Yeah, ahead of Lamar, ahead of Baker. I think Burrow has – I know the arm talent is not necessarily there. Like Herbert has an exceptional arm, top 5, whatever you want to say. Burrow is not there. But from a processing standpoint, I don't think he's that far off of the elite of the elite. Like he's like closer to Tom Brady mentally than I think people will give him credit for. I think he's closer to, I don't know, say like Matt Ryan won the MVP without a crazy arm. It was a great scheme. Now, granted, Cincinnati has nowhere near the scheme that Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan did in 2016, but he has that. Burrow has that elite processing. He knows where to go with the football. He's a step ahead of the defense on every single play, even though he has a cancer head coach. I don't know. I like what Burrow's going to do moving forward. I think
to be fair, I think the sample size though in the NFL is also bigger with Herbert than it is with Burrow.
That's fair.
And then also people kind of tend to overlook Burrow a little bit because he's on the Bengals, and like the Chargers and the Bengals are kind of at, I don't want to say 2 completely different opposite ends of the spectrum, but there's a pretty significant difference between the Chargers and the Bengals. So
I'm not overlooking Burrow at all. I think he's a great talent. I think he's got a good group of weapons, but it's a little bit tough to get that deep ball better when you're going to be on your butt the entire time because there's no one blocking for him.
That's
You're
true.
Not wrong.
That's true.
You're not wrong. So I think that's fair. Herbert's going to have another exceptional season. I think eye test wise, he's going to be perfectly fine. Let me make it very clear that he's probably going to be better eye test wise. I think the numbers take a step back. So I think in the lens of like a casual fan, you're going to think, why did Herbert get worse? Well, it's because he was doing unsustainable things his first year. So I think he's an exceptional talent, and I would not be surprised if both Burrow and Herbert are top 10 quarterbacks when we're having this conversation next year. And I wish them nothing but the best there. So with that said, moving on to number 9, we have our second rated defensive player, TJ Watt. Do you guys agree that he's the number 1 edge?
No.
Ooh. Okay.
I don't think he's the best edge in his division. I think that's Myles Garrett's throne.
Okay. Explain.
Okay.
Garrett had his breakout year last year. I just like his physical attributes a little bit better. I also think Pittsburgh's defensive scheme is really well put together and helps out TJ Watt. No disrespect to Watt whatsoever. He is a phenomenal player. I do think Myles Garrett is the better talent. That's why I have him slated for Defensive Player of the Year this year. I'm expecting Garrett to take that jump into the top 10 for 2021. But in terms of a performance standpoint, I do think Watt had the better season. There's a reason he's in the top 10 right now, while Garrett isn't. But expect Watt and Garrett to maybe flip-flop their roles for when we look back on this a year from now.
I think that's absolutely fair.
I think something you have to remember is that this is a players list. Like, this is what the players think is the top 100. And with the numbers and the performances that TJ Watt was putting up last year, you saw his name a lot. And that's kind of what you're seeing as a player, like, outside of your team. Like, when you're not focused on game week or whatever it is you're doing during the week, you're kind of seeing, like, what else is happening around the league. And you're seeing this guy's name pop up a lot. And you watch him perform, you watch what he does, and it's like, this guy should be top 10 from a player's perspective. So I can understand why he's rated where he is. I don't know if I would put him. I don't know. It's tricky. It's really tricky when there's so many big names up here.
Yeah, I think you're hitting a good point that these players, yes, it's from a list from the players' perspective, but I'm a big proponent of, just because the players make the list doesn't mean it's like a God-made list.
It's not the end-all be-all just because the players made it.
Yeah, so you look at these guys have friends within these organizations, right? I saw there was a Colts player. I don't know who the Colts player was, but if he's good friends with Marlon Mack, he can put Marlon Mack in his top 20 and there's no repercussions. He can make Darius Leonard the best linebacker in the world. I'm a very outspoken critic of that, but whatever. He can make his top 20. The players themselves compile lists of top 20 for the uninitiated. So it's not like when Lamar Jackson makes his list, he's not writing out 100 names. He's writing the best 20, and they compile it into one list. So these players have their own personal biases. Some of them, not all of them, some of them might not watch every single game. They clearly know what they're doing more than I do. I'm never going to say that, but they also have friends in the locker room. They have guys they don't like. They have guys they admire. Every guy in the league, to some degree, probably has like respect for Brady. 7 championships, MVPs, all whatever it may be. These guys grew up watching Brady. They grew up watching, say, Breeze last year. He's obviously not in this list. They grew up watching Aaron Rodgers. So you're going to have some of that royalty aspect that, I'm going to vote for Brady. I didn't play Brady last year. I didn't watch any of Brady's games because, I don't know, if I'm on the Cleveland Browns, why do I care about what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing for 16 games a year? But I don't know. I think you run into the issue of, say, Jack, you're a Rams fan, right? What are you going to do? What's stopping you from not watching, say, the Las Vegas Raiders for a season, and you don't realize how good Darren Waller is, or you don't realize how good Derek Carr is, or you don't realize how good, I don't know, Max Crosby is? Or you might see, Max Crosby had 4 sacks in a game. Then you don't watch any of these other games. So you're influenced by one play or one series.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there are issues with the players list, and I don't like when people say, it's the players list. It's obviously above yours. I'm not saying mine's better, but I am saying that their list can be flawed, and they're playing with these guys. If you're on the Bucks, right, and you're playing with Tom Brady, aren't you going to raise Brady a little bit more? Aren't you? You might say, hey, Brady is better than Mahomes. Brady's better than Rodgers. Why? I'm teammates with Brady. He's awesome. He led us to a Super Bowl, whatever it may be. So I don't know. I think there's always a little bit of the
teammate bias thing. I think is there for sure, because when I remember when Aaron Donald was number 1 in, I think, 2019, you had Jared Goff when he was on the Rams and Todd Gurley when he was on the Rams, both just praising him like crazy, and they're his teammates. So, like, of course they're going to put him at number 1 if they have the chance. So I get where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I think the going from like someone's top 20 to a top 100 can kind of be screwy as well, because let's say I'm going to use Budda Baker as an example. He made the top 20, right? So let's say someone had him at 17. The difference between him being the number 17 player in the league and the number 21 player in the league is not too much, but if you're someone's number 21 player, you're not factored into the voting at all, right?
Right.
It'd be like, say, 2019 MVP voting. You only vote for the number one guy, so Lamar Jackson wins unanimously. So you have no idea if people thought Russell Wilson was the second best quarterback. You don't know if people thought Mahomes was better, or I don't know, McCaffrey was better, or Thomas was better, or Aaron Gilmore, whatever it may be. So you have, I don't know, you're kind of getting the. I just disagree with the idea of going from a top 20 to a big 100 list. So.
Yeah, that's a little.
Oh, and we
much.
have breaking news. Apparently, J.K. Dobbins is now injured, and I'm very sad. So that's depressing. Moving quickly on, number 8, DeAndre Hopkins. Woo.
I feel like if you're going to be in the NFL top 10 list, you either have to be such a force where you're clearly and presently the best receiver or best position player in that position, which, of course, Hopkins isn't even the best receiver in his conference. I would swap him with Stephon Diggs. I'll be blunt.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I understand how talented DeAndre Hopkins is, and I also will admit that some of maybe why I don't think he's going to succeed on this level this year. I don't love Kingsbury's scheme. I don't think it matches up well with Kyler, and I don't think it's going to click, especially in the division that they play in with 3 very strong defenses, which they're going to have to see twice a year. But yeah, I think top 15 is a fair spot for Hopkins. I don't think he's better than Stephon Diggs. Not after what Stephon Diggs last year. Not after what Diggs and the impact he had on that. If you can tell, I'm not a Bills fan. I am a big shill for the Bills, not to force in a rhyme there. But yeah, I like Hopkins. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think he's top 10.
Okay. Splash seems a little blown away by this.
Yeah. I think I agree with everything you said, and I don't think Hopkins is the best receiver in his own conference. I'm going to try to hold myself together here and not freak out. But, hey, Hopkins had a great year with Arizona. Another strong season for him. He's my wide receiver 3. I'm very, very much a Tyreek Hill number 1, Devonte Adams number 2. The physical traits, of course, are there, and it's something that the players aren't going to overlook. And the reputation that Hopkins has of being a top 5 guy year in and year out and year in and year out, it's exceptional. And I think there is some value to that. And there's a reason why, outside of Lamar, the top 10 tends not to fluctuate too much. It fluctuates, but the top 10 is going to be the established guys in the league. It's hard to have a flash in the pan and be a top 10, right? And I think there's reason to believe that Lamar Jackson's not a flash in the pan because he came back and was number 24. So Lamar is the exception, and even he was a top 25 player this past season. So I think Hopkins does get the benefit of the doubt a little bit. I don't think he's the wide receiver 1. There's an argument he is, but I guess he is wide receiver 2 on this list anyways. But I don't think he's wide receiver 2, but he does get the benefit of the doubt, I would say.
I don't think he's wide receiver 1 because I think they got wide receiver 1 right. We'll get to that when we get to him.
Okay.
This has been a sucky day. What the heck?
Yeah, we're finding out info about J.K. Dobbins right now, and it's not pretty. So
I don't want to play it because it sounds really, really bad. But yeah, let's keep it rolling. Tom Brady at number 7 to match that number 7, his 7th ring. I didn't think I was going to be saying that, honestly. Wow. So 7 rings for Tom Brady. He's number 7 in the 2021 version of the top 100. Do you think it's too high? Do you think it's too low? Should the GOAT be higher than 7?
I think it's too low. I think he's got to be higher. I think he's got to be top 5, minimum or maximum 5th. Here's why, though. every time I watch Tom Brady play, and I watch him more than once a year, okay? I'm not falling into the whole I only see him when the Rams play the Bucks. Like I see him a lot. I think Tom Brady, even though it's kind of well established at this point what he's capable of, he still sort of finds a way to kind of surprise me with what he does. I think that he still has that surprise factor in him. It's like, how the hell does he do that at this age? Like, he still has this incredible amount of athleticism. He still has an absolute cannon. And then like the news comes out after the season that he did all this on like a torn MCL. Like, what? That's ridiculous.
There's nobody like him. I don't think there ever will be anybody like him
He
again.
is like, I know we're talking about like how Madden in their teaser trailer was calling Mahomes the baby goat or something. Maybe he'll get there one day, but we don't know. But what we have seen with Tom Brady, despite his reputation, despite everything he's done in his career, he continues to find ways to surprise me at least. And it's like, I don't know if we're ever going to see another player like him again. I think he's going to be at least top 5.
See, I agree with everything you said. Just my issue is this, to me, is a list of the best player right now as opposed to the greatest player ever. And
that's why I mentioned the torn MCL.
Yeah.
He did that this year. This was all this past season.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think Brady is too high. You do get into that quarterbacks are generally going to be overrated. So I have an issue on that front. But at the same time, he was awesome last year. And I know people are going to say, well, it's easy throws, and he has 3 wide receivers that are awesome, and he has the tight ends, and he has Bruce Arians, and he has a good offensive line, and he has good running backs, and everything's to his favor. Yes, but he still has to play at a really high level. And if you go back and watch every play, Brady might have had his best season at age 43. Are you kidding me? Like, on a throw-to-throw basis, you could argue he was better than 07 Brady, which was otherworldly. 2010 Brady, unanimous MVP. And 2017 Brady. Holy Christmas.
Oh, boy.
I know he had that lull in the middle of the season that he couldn't hit a deep ball. But last few weeks, sensational.
I still think 2014 Brady's the best Brady I've ever seen. I felt like that was Final Four Brady. But this season, I mean, the fact that he does what he does at his age gosh. And you saw, and the discussion was always back when he was in New England, was he assistant quarterback? Look at what New England's offense was without him, even though they had very much of the same structure in terms of personnel that they had with Brady. Look at the difference. And look at what Tampa Bay was when they had Jameis. And I actually think Jameis is going to be quite good in New Orleans this year. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at the difference in what Tampa Bay was before and what New England is after. And that's why Tom Brady deserves to be right where he is at 7.
I think that's fair. And I'm frantically checking to see if I have Dobbins in all of my leagues, which I hope I don't. Crap, he's in 2 of my.
I didn't have.
Why?
Dude, the fantasy gods the football gods have completely screwed us both in terms of running backs.
Oh my goodness!
I won my league last year. Look, if I could draft Saquon second overall last year and win my league, I think anything's possible.
Should I? I'm kind of thinking. I'm low key kind of thinking if I should pick up Tyson Williams. He's been awesome. But I don't know. That sucks. Anyways, number 6, we have our wide receiver 1. It is Devonte Adams. He had a sensational year last year, 18 touchdowns. That's not quite what Jerry Rice did in 88, 89, and not quite what Randy Moss did in 07, but it's third. It's a pretty ridiculous third. So, is Adams your wide receiver 1 there, Jack?
I'd say so. I mean, you could chalk it up to the fact that he was playing with Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, I'm just going to push that aside because even with, I think his play this year was unreal. He played – it just felt like every time Rodgers and – I know I just said I'd brush off Rodgers, but every time they connected, it just felt like it was magic. Like, every time I was watching these players, I think what is the stat here? 1,374 yards, 18 touchdowns in 14 games. Come on, that's ridiculous. It's insane. I think the way he played last year, he deserves to be wide receiver 1.
And I remember the arguments against Adams that, oh, well, he didn't have 1,000 yards. That means he sucks, right? I don't think I've ever gotten.
Who legitimately says that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever been more like angry at anything. I have to support Lamar Jackson, and Lamar is one of the most polarizing players in sports. But the people that came out of the woodworks to say Devonte Adams was overrated because he only had 1,000-yard season, or maybe it was 2, I don't know. But he is perhaps okay. We are in an NFL nowadays, the modern NFL, that there are some of the greatest playoff performers ever. Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and then for some reason, Marquise Brown is silently the greatest playoff receiver ever. I don't understand it either. Devonte Adams might be the single best playoff performing wide receiver in the history of the NFL. Now, he doesn't have the Edelman or the Rice or the Fitzgerald or the Julio, years of production. But when he is on the football field, he is unequivocally the best player in every playoff game he plays. It's ridiculous. And he was doing that up into 2020. And people had the audacity to say, oh, he's not that good. He only has the 1,000-yard season. Are you kidding me? He had 997 yards, I believe, twice. No one ever has been within 5 yards of 1,000 twice. Guess who did it? Devonte Adams. So the difference between him having 1,000 yards and not having 1,000 yards is one catch. It's this year. The difference between Keenan Allen and Mike Evans was one single catch. If Keenan Allen plays week 17, he gets to 1,000 yards. There's no issues. But, Mike Evans is so good because he has 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Seriously, he was forced at week 17 and got injured on the play that he got to 1,000. If he drops that pass, he doesn't get to 1,000. That doesn't mean he's a worse receiver. That doesn't The Devonte Adams critics heading into last season were just
unbearable.
Yeah, it was so stupid. How dense can you be? What the difference between 997 yards and 1,000 yards is essentially nothing. No.
Okay, let's look at how last season the Packers' talent and wide receiver drops off after Devonte Adams. You go straight from him to Mr. Butterfingers and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And Devin Funchess, he's in and out constantly. Robert Tonyan, wasn't surprised, but still, Devonte Adams, the contribution he has to that offense. And yes, I understand Rodgers is quarterback, but what makes him so spectacular is that he makes the crazy look routine. There's not much flash to his game, which is what I love about him. Mm-hmm. He just kind of goes out there and does everything he needs to do to the highest level possible.
For sure.
And at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. The statistics don't lie. His production doesn't lie. He's Devonte Adams. He's the best receiver in football. It is what it is.
Yeah, I will be honest. I am on the Tyreek Hill as the best wide receiver in football, but
actually, let me walk that back. I think Adams, from a production standpoint, is the best. From a talent standpoint, yes, it is Tyreek Hill.
Okay, glad we can agree on that, because I think what Hill brings, and I'll talk about Hill because he's not in the top 10. What Hill brings athletically is unmatched, and I've talked about this before on other shows. There are a certain number of absolutes in the NFL. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the NFL, best pass rusher. Darren Waller is tight end 3. And then to me, Tyreek Hill is the best deep threat. And it's none of those I think are particularly close. I guess you can make the argument from maybe a production standpoint that Waller is better than Kittle, but Kittle is such a dynamic blocker. And really the only thing holding Kittle back is the injuries. So talent-wise, I think Kittle is a very clear top 2. But Hill is a legitimate track athlete with the football athleticism, the jumping talent that is just ridiculous. He wins so many jump balls at 5'10" that you could mistake him. You could mistake his statistical profile in terms of winning contested catches for Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay. Come on now. He's perhaps the fastest man in the NFL. He jumps higher than just about anyone in the NFL, and he's a pretty solid route runner. And I get the complaints with the hands, But when you're open as often as Tyreek Hill is, now he's not the route running technician that Adams, Ridley, Diggs, Judy, Cooper are, but he's faster than you. Calvin Ridley might not be faster than the defensive back he's going up. He's going to have to win on technique. Justin Jefferson is going to have to win on technique. Adams is going to have to win on technique. Hill can win on technique, but if he doesn't win on technique, he's 10 yards in the other direction, and he's wide open. And yes, I know he has Mahomes, and yes, I know Travis Kelsey is his teammate, but I think from a game-breaking standpoint, I would argue Tyreek Hill is the most special player in the NFL. Like, I don't want to say he's the best player in the NFL, but I think there is no one in the NFL you have to scheme for as much as Tyreek Hill. Like, even like Mahomes, you can say, well, Mahomes does this. You kind of just have to accept that Mahomes does these things. The defense knows what's coming. You have no clue what Hill's going to do on any given play. Now, he runs a 4-2, and he can jump out of the gym, so you have an idea, I guess, but it is impossible to stop what he's doing. Mahomes can make these little mental mistakes, dropping too far back in the pocket, throwing it into the chest of A.J. Terrell. Tyreek Hill, even if his brain flipped off for like 10 minutes, you wouldn't notice because he's still faster than everyone. So Hill's my number one receiver, and I think he should, if I was doing it, I would have him at 6, then Adams at 8, and then have Hopkins in the Diggs spot at 11. But I think it's cool either way. All of them are spectacular players. So that means we're heading to the top 5 with Mr. Travis Kelsey. We just mentioned him. Kelsey at 5. What do we think? Is Kelsey the best tight end in the NFL? Or do you guys have Kittle over him maybe? Or do you think it's too low, too high for the all-time leader in receiving yards in a season among tight ends?
I think right now it is fair. I think when we come back to this a year from now, it's going to be him and it's going to be Darren Waller. But for the time being, with everything he's done with his connection with his quarterback and just his efficiency, consistency, that's the key. Once again, someone that he's not like Gronk where he lets his personality do the talking. No disrespect to Gronk, but Kelsey just plays a much quieter, angrier version of the tight end position in a way that just so much goes behind the scenes, so much you don't even notice. And I think it's 100% fair to drop him to 5. He's the best tight end in the game. That's just factual. From a talent standpoint, I think George Kittle is better, but Kittle can barely stay in the field.
Okay. What say you, Jack?
I kind of agree with that. I think that Kittle, in terms of like the talent, I love what Kittle does in terms of that stuff. I think his blocking is just absurd and what he can do, even while he's carrying the ball. Like I've seen highlights of him just shoving people off of him while he's carrying the ball and running it into the end zone. Like it's ridiculous. But you look at the results that these teams get to. That's something else I kind of tend to look at a lot. What Kelsey has done for the Chiefs has been more like he beat Kelsey. I get their names confused all the time. It's pretty easy to do that. Kittle lost to Kelsey in a Super Bowl. Granted, they weren't on the field at the same time, but still, like what Kittle has done for the 49ers doesn't really compare as much to what Kelsey has been doing for the Chiefs as of late. So I feel like in terms of the results, I think that it's fair to put Kelsey at 5 for now, and I absolutely think that's fair. But it could be a hot debate soon if Darren Waller keeps trending up and Kittle stays consistent, stays healthy too. I think that's the number one thing with that team. They got to stay healthy.
Yeah, like I touched on.
Oh, Splash's internet died. We were a little bit worried about this.
I'm just glad it wasn't mine going out because every time it blinks, I was just like, "Oh no, is that me?"
Yeah, he's been doing that, but we'll take over for just a second. So, yeah, what did you you thought it was fair for
I
Kelsey
think
right there?
for Kelsey to be there at 5, I don't, like I was saying, I think Darren Waller is on a collision course with the title of tight end in football, and I think he's going to be considered that. But where things stand right now, you just have to look at consistency. He's always in the field. He's always making the big plays, the big moments. He's a great blocker. There's Splash.
He's back.
Gookie. That was goofy.
And one more thing on the tight end position, I don't like hyping up rookies to an extent, but I truly do think Pitt's going to be in the conversation in 2 years.
Yeah, I think we agree with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know. You have like a sort of, to me, there's a little issue with what you look at with like production at the tight end spot. It's never a rookie thing. It has never been. Mike Ditka is the only rookie to have 1,000 yards. That was 60 years ago. Think as good as Gronk is, or was, as good as Kelsey was, as good as as great of a prospect, O.J. Howard, Hawkinson, Fant, Vernon Davis, who is kind of ridiculous as a prospect. But the production never comes year one. It sometimes comes year 2 and then moving down. I think Gronk's big season was year 2 in 2011. He had like 17 touchdowns or whatnot. So I like where you're going with Pitts. I do need to see it on the field first. And I hope for the sake of him that they give him maybe a simplified offensive role this year and have him just work on the blocking more in practice, because that's where the biggest learning curve is. It's learning, because tight ends have the unique that they have to learn the passing game inside out, left, right, up, down, left, center. They have to do the same with the running game. The offensive line has to do that, but the offensive line's not catching the ball. They're not running routes. They have kind of a limited range of motions, if you will. As a tight end, you have perhaps the most difficult offensive job outside of quarterback, and I would say the third most difficult job on the entire NFL field, with corners and defensive backs in general have a really difficult role to play. But if you're going to look at Pitts and you say, okay, he can be the wide receiver 2 in the Atlanta offense year 1, and then develop the blocking in practice, develop the blocking over the offseason, I think that would be great. And develop the tight end responsibilities. I think that's when you get into he has 1,200 yards as a rookie and he's a top 45 player in the league. I could absolutely see that. I just want to see that happen first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
So I do want to talk about one thing that Frankie mentioned. He says Julio is still the best receiver, and he's better than Devonte Adams. I understand where you're coming from, and from a physical perspective, from maybe a traits perspective, I get that Julio can be more dominant than Devonte Adams, but I think at this point, creating separation is the name of the game. That Julio has never been – he's been a solid separator for a lot of his career. Like his best years, he's a good separator. But he has never been even 5% of the route runner that Devonte Adams is right now. Adams just kind of – poof, it happens. He's separated. He is open on as often as you can be. And I mentioned Hill, but Hill, a lot of his separation can come from the physical traits. There is almost no one as just purely ridiculous in terms of separation as
Devonte Adams.
Yeah. And I think that's one reason to me that you have to say, hey, this Adams is the best receiver in the NFL, or the second best receiver if you consider Tyreek Hill to be a human. I don't think he's a human. He's more like a Superman being, right? I get the physical tools with Julio and Hopkins and the likes. It's just, I think Julio is out of his prime, and he's still awesome. He's still a top 100 player for sure. He's still a top 10 wide receiver to me, but he's not even the best receiver in his own team right now. I think I don't want to get into that right now, but I do love me some AJ Brown.
Yeah.
So
AJ Brown, I'd take over Julio, but it's close.
Yeah. Speaking of the Titans, number 4, Derrick Henry, the top-ranked running back, all the way up at number 4.
Yes.
Too high, too low? What are we thinking?
I'm perfectly fine with that. Chef's kiss. like you just did. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think I put in the tweet, he had a monster year last year. I think it's absolutely valid to put him at 4. Just what he's capable of doing, his size, his speed, his athleticism. I think it's everything a running back should be.
Yeah, it's so
We've
funny
never
that
seen
it's like I hate scouting the helmet or this franchise or whatever you want to call it. He is Earl Campbell in the flesh now, like 40 years later. He runs with such physicality and menace, and it's like people describe him as a runaway freight train. It works because he really is. There's no like stopping Derrick Henry. The best thing you can do is like attempt to bottle him up and get him running sideways behind the line of scrimmage. This is what Denver did week 1. This is what Baltimore did in the playoffs. You're not going to stop him unless you're like way up on the Titans and they can't run the ball, like against, say, Cleveland. It's borderline just ridiculous what Henry can do.
A man of his size and stature should not be able to move the way he does.
Yeah. And it's so I don't think I've ever seen a guy is with anywhere close to like the measurements of Derrick Henry break off 90-yard runs. It's seemingly like every month, right? It's like every time he plays Jacksonville, 90-yard run. Every time he plays Houston, 90-yard run. Now, granted, Houston and Jacksonville suck, but this man is doing like the 80-yard touchdown ordeal, 90-yard touchdown ordeal, 66-yard run against the Ravens in the playoffs. He's doing that to grown men. He's doing that to some of the best athletes in the world, and Henry's just like a cut above, and that's insane to me. Whew.
I think we're all pretty much in agreement there.
All right, good to hear. Top 3. Before it was revealed, Jack, what would your top 3 have been?
My biased top 3 or my unbiased top 3?
Whatever you want to go
If you want the biased top 3, Aaron Donald's number 1. Either way, I would probably put Aaron Rodgers over Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's why I was like a little bit heated at the end of it, because I was like, so you're telling me that after the MVP title, okay, because we all know Aaron Donald's the best defensive player in football. He's got to be at least 2 this year. If he's not 1, then that's fine with me as long as Aaron Rodgers is ahead of him, because the kind of year that Aaron Rodgers had, Aaron Rodgers was like that he was godlike last year, pretty much. So you're really telling me, again, player list, but you're really telling me that Patrick Mahomes is above both of them? No disrespect to Mahomes. I still think what Mahomes can do is incredible. But I'm talking about what Mahomes can do versus what Aaron Rodgers has done. I think that so if you want the unbiased top 3, it should be Rodgers, Donald, Mahomes.
That's exactly what it should be.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil my top 3 because we're kind of doing a show about it tomorrow. But yeah,
that's
Donald
right, we
1.
are.
To me, it's Donald 1, Rodgers 2, Mahomes 3. Like and it's not a knock against Mahomes, and it's not even a knock against Rodgers. Rodgers had such a ridiculous season that there is a strong argument that it is the greatest quarterback season ever. A strong argument. I'm not going to make the argument because I think his 2011 season's better, but efficiency-wise, he had 15 unreal games. He had the terrible game against Tampa, for sure, but he had 15 weeks 1 to 17 outside of the Tampa game. Unreal.
Yeah, he played 2 bad games the entire season. 1 in the regular season and 1 in the playoffs. And who were they both against? Tampa. That's it.
Yeah, it happens. And, of course, Donald is ridiculous.
Yeah, we Splash and I talk about Aaron Donald all the time on our show. I mean, it's part of our outro.
Knives.
It's part of our outro. He trains with knives. But yeah, not really much more that needs to be said. I don't want to spend the whole show gushing over him or how insanely talented he is for a defensive tackle, but there you go.
I could just say what I want to say about Donald. Look, I'm a Giants fan, and there has not been a player in the National Football League that is forcing offenses to change their entire schemes. We have not seen this since Lawrence Taylor invented the left tackle position. Aaron Donald has invented or we could say reinvented the defensive tackle position. There are going to be hundreds of players that are going to come into college and try and build themselves in his mold, and none of them are going to succeed.
Yeah, we've seen it with, Ed Oliver a couple years ago. Oh, he's Aaron Donald 2.0.
They were
my guy, Osa Odigizua. I think he was drafted by Dallas.
Yeah, he was.
To me, he's like Aaron Donald, exactly like Aaron Donald, but you have the whole thing that you kind of need the football talent. You need Aaron Donald's football talent. You can have the body type. That's fine. You can, I don't know, maybe 2% of the work ethic. I don't know, because again, Donald trains with knives, and he's so good at what he does. He can put himself in bodily harm as a training technique. I think that's perhaps the wildest
like we
thing.
talk about, we joke about it all the time, but it's like ridiculous what he does to train. Like
it's the Lawrence Taylor thing. That's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was back in the 90s. It was always
that kind of
Lawrence Taylor. There was nobody that was ever the next Lawrence Taylor, just like there will never be anybody that is the next Aaron Donald.
Exactly. The kind of work ethic you have to like have blades thrown at your arms pretty much is ridiculous.
Although I will say, watch out for Osa Odigizua.
Oh,
if it were, I love it. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. I think when I did the draft show with Justin, I don't think he was one of the guys I mentioned that it was either him or Jamie Sherwood that Justin had never heard of. I'm like, this guy is going to be legit. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Aaron Donald, but I think he's going to be gnarly.
But
yeah, he's not going to be the next Aaron Donald. It's kind of like the next LeBron, the next MJ, or like you said, the next Lawrence Taylor. He can try. You can have the same body type, but I don't know.
But
Aaron Donald is
body type and talent are two different things. You can be like this.
Who were y'all's like late round draft crushes this year? Because everyone's got one.
Jamie and Sherwood. I hated that the Jets got him. Actually, I don't even know. I wouldn't even consider him a late round draft crush. I thought he was like a third round talent, maybe even a low 2. Like I had him in my top 80 players, and then the Jets got him in round 5.
Cameron McGrone out of Michigan.
Yes. I love New England.
I watched him. I'm like, this dude plays like Fred Warner. It's uncanny. New England's going to have a lot of fun with him.
Mm-hmm. Just their draft as a whole. Like, say what you will about Mac, but I think that's a really good fit there. I loved the interior dude out of Alabama.
Christian Barmore.
Barmore was an unreal pick in the second round. You have McGrone. Then you have Ramondre Stevenson, who I love that pick even before he had
Ramondre Stevenson.
Yes, even before the preseason game against Philly. Not Philly. Washington. Was it Washington? He had the two. Yeah, he had the 2 huge touchdowns against Washington. I don't care. Preseason football, whatever. But he was that's an insane draft, and they had one other guy that I just.
There were a whole bunch of really, really, really good defensive players that fell. Far.
Like Denver got Jamar Johnson, right at the end of the 3rd round, right at the beginning of the 4th round. I thought he was a top 50-ish player.
Back to 2 guys that I had firmly in my 1st round in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Azeez Ojulari, both lasted to 50.
I kind of get it with JOK because he did have the heart issue that not every team knew of. Yeah. Like not every team was able to get cleared. Ojulari, he's kind of. The play style is a little bit different from Brian Burns, but I kind of liken him to Burns in that he's going to do one thing, but he does it so ridiculously well that it doesn't matter how much preparation you put in. He's still going to win like a lot of his reps just by doing the one thing. So I think he's going to be exceptional for the Giants.
Well, he also played the 4-3 at Georgia, and that's primarily what Patrick Graham runs. He was a perfect scheme fit. Mm-hmm. And just watching him in the preseason get around Mekhi Becton that first game, I was like, oh boy, there's no way this guy should have lasted to 50.
Okay, so I guess breaking news. So Dobbin's been down with an injury, and this is from PFF Mario. clips I've seen, it was contact that forced a hyperextension. Common possibilities equal PCL and or MCL injury or bone bruise. ACL potential, but it's uncommon. So he may have avoided an ACL, but he's probably done for the season.
Well, if it's non-contact, it was not 100% non-contact, which is typically good.
And that did not look like a non-contact to me. I saw it.
Oh yeah, his knee got like bent backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like on a scale of
I think he's done then.
Very much like University of Miami, Willis McGahee. Although in fairness to that was helmet to the kneecap, and his knee just went straight backwards. But I guess I don't know. It just sucks.
Practice injuries with knees on a scale of 1 to Teddy Bridgewater. Where are we thinking?
Oh boy.
Because I don't think we're ever gonna. There is still not public footage of Teddy Bridgewater's knee injury because apparently it was that bad.
Oof. Oh man,
I've seen footage of worse injuries though.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know about worse, but
the cream of the crop, like bad injuries for me, like Nick Chubb at Georgia. That was
boy, oof. Oh, that was bad. The Tennessee game.
Yeah, that was bad.
I think it showed.
I'm just rubbing my knee now because it hurts.
I mean, Kevin Ware.
They showed Zeke breaking his ankle in slow motion. That was disgusting.
Dak
no,
up there.
No. Dak was just a cramp. Don't worry about it. It's just a cramp, right?
It's a cramp.
Oh my goodness.
His ankle was somewhere it should not have been. And Tony Romo is just like, it's just a cramp.
Just a cramp. Yes.
Oh, boy.
Dak was up there.
Paul George.
I hate thinking about injuries.
In the Olympic game. Oh man, that was bad. Gordon Hayward, I was watching like six minutes in after we won the title in 16. We're like, and then Gordon Hayward just yeet. It's like, what? And I own a Gordon Hayward jersey now. So that's that one hits close.
Okay, I think we should stop grossing ourselves out now.
Yeah. We're on a whole totally new plane here. I'm really excited. The NFL season is back in 12 days now.
We are so close. This is our last weekend of preseason.
Yeah,
it's only week 3.
College is back, and I feel like I'll plug myself here because I'm going to be going live a lot for college football.
The floor is yours.
Hey, we don't have one yet. And I say this as I am living on the campus of an SEC school, so
I'm from Georgia. I hate Georgia and I hate Auburn and I don't know if I hate Florida, but I definitely hate Georgia and I hate Auburn.
I hate Tennessee.
Yeah.
But for a second, can we just laugh at Nebraska? Because that was great.
I remember, was it 2 years ago they started the season ranked like 24th? They went like 4-8.
They started
last season?
No, 2 years ago.
Okay. They were like ranked 24th in the country. It's like, yeah, they went 4-8 last year, but they're bringing in Scott Frost. It's all going to be sunshine and rainbows up in
Lincoln.
They play in Lincoln? Yeah.
Lincoln.
It's like, oh yeah, sunshine and rainbows, glory days, Charmy Armstrong is back, baby. What happened to them?
They had their first game taken out by a lightning storm, so it was postponed. It was canceled. And then they blew like a 20-point lead to Colorado the next week.
Yeah, that was the Vishka Chanel coming out party. Love me some Vishka.
Someone that spent my whole summer working for a minor league baseball team out there, Nebraska football fans are the most delusional bunch I've ever met in my life. Like, I worked with people that work for the athletic department, that work for the football team, and they were just like, I think we can go 9-3 this year. And I'm like,
what?
That is on a level to me of visiting my friends in Dallas and having to listen to people in dead seriousness explain to me why this is the year the Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl.
Oh God, did you guys see Scooter McGruder's tweet?
I mean,
he made a bet with Tom Grossi saying that he said the Cowboys would go 15-2.
I mean, in keeping with all those guys to an extent, I don't think Urinating Tree wants to continually hear me say the Steelers are missing the playoffs. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Listen. I've been around long enough. The Steelers are going to go 9-8. I have no reason why they're going to go 9-8. Well, the defense is really good, so that helps. I have no genuine reason why I think they're closer to like a 6-11 team or a 7-10 team, but they will win 9 games. You can bet your bottom dollar they will win 9 games.
they're the third best team in the division. They are the third best team in the division.
I agree. 100,000%. I agree with you. But they're by some divine, and this is a team. Let me take you back. Their first 11 games without Ben Roethlisberger in 2019, they were playing Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. They went 8-3. Why? Just Steelers. But then they lost to the Bills, the Jets. They lost to 2019 Josh Allen, 2019 Sam Darnold, and 2019 Robert Griffin III.
Oh my God.
Look, they're going to go 9-8. I don't know how. I don't know why. I agree with everything you say. I agree with every criticism you can possibly imagine. There's an argument to me that Ben Roethlisberger is the 30th best quarterback in football. That might be a little too high. But, oh my goodness, they're going to win 9 games, and it's going to kill me on the inside.
All right. I think on that note, we wrap it up.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us.
No problem.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach, his first ever show. Thought it was a banger.
Won't be my last.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Jack and I will be back maybe tomorrow with my top 50 players.
At least you will be back. I'll be sitting there behind the screen, either laughing at or yelling at your list.
Okay, very true. That's fair. You'll see Jack's pretty face again on Tuesday. I don't know when Zach wants to start his show, but hey, you can start, I guess, whenever. Okay, awesome. Love to hear it. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, peace out. And Aaron Donald does train with knives, and it's an appropriate ending because he should have been the number 1 player on this list.